Hey, loves. Welcome to Becoming P31 with your host, Jazzy Nicole. You guys, this podcast is all about becoming a Proverbs 31 woman, and I am more than grateful that you decided to embark on this journey with me as we work towards becoming the woman that God designed us to be. We're going to talk about the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. We may get a little messy, but all in the honor of God. And I'm just thankful that you guys are here. Stay tuned for today's episode. Talk to you soon. Bye. Hello and welcome back to the podcast Becoming P31 with your host Jazzy Nicole. I'm so excited to join you today. But first, you already know I got to check on you. I got to see how you're doing. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Okay, let me ask you a better question. Tell me the best thing that happened for you this past week, this week. The best thing. If you can think about the best thing that's happened, what was it? Okay, okay. All right, cool, cool. You got that. You got that. What about the worst thing that happens? What could have been better in your perspective about this week? I want to tell you from my perspective, the best thing that happened was I finally got some sleep. Like if you're like me, I'm the type of person where I will run, do. And sometimes my body has to set me down. And I have to get a grasp on that because listen, I was exhausted. And this week I have been able to catch up on a little sleep. Although to me, it feels like I'm being forced to sleep because my body's like, sit down, girl. You can't do everything under the sun. Um, but at the end of the day, that was needed. My body feels better. It feels rejuvenated. So that's where I am. Worst thing that happened this week is I feel like I fell short in doing everything that I wanted to do this week. I feel like I kind of cheated myself and I don't like that either. So I hate to say it, but I'm low key an overachiever, and I don't know. It's a gift and a curse. You know what I'm saying? So, anywho, boo. We are talking about today. We're talking about which to me the timing is like super important. A lot of times I talk about topics that I feel like I'm experiencing in my life in that moment, and right now I am experiencing an extreme level of hyper independence. Now, and I say right now, like I ain't never dealt with this in my life, but this is me. This is who I am. Hyper independent. And I love it and I hate it. It's a gift and it's a curse. Are you someone who deals with hyper independence? Are you like me? Do you deal with hyper independence where you almost like feel like you need to do everything on your own, and when you are offered help, you're almost like, no, I got it. I'm good. Okay, can you you can lift that car? You can go over there and lift that Honda Civic. Like, no, no, I got it. I think I'm cool. Instead of asking for help, you internalize it and end up doing all these things on your own. Like, this is definitely who I am. I'm super hyper independent, but there's a catch 22 to that. While it's a beautiful thing to be strong and independent and hyper and be able to do things on your own. Hyper independence is not the best. And it can be a sign of not trusting God. And that's what I'm dealing with. I'm really working on it. And I kind of want to just bring up that topic to you today, not out of a person who has mastered it, because I definitely have not, but out of a person who's learning it, who is trying to process it, who's trying to harness it, because independence is a beautiful thing and it's a gift. But hyper independence can ruin relationships and can show that your trust is not in your father, and the call is coming from inside the house, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm definitely there for me in my terms, not looking at any sort of dictionary, but just out of my terms. Hyper independence for me looks like taking care of the kids as a single mother, um rearranging bedrooms by myself, building items by myself, running to the grocery store, dropping them off to doctor's appointments or staying with them, I mean, taking them to school, going to sporting events for them, picking them up, um, cooking dinner, all these things in one day without asking for help, even though I have people who saying I'm here for you. even though I have people saying, I got you, even though I have people saying, Jazz, do you need assistance? Even though I have that, hyper independence is causing me to struggle with that. And so that's where I am in my, I guess, in my realization. And it was crazy. It's taking me so long because I've just been that person who people look at like she's got it all down packed. I've been that person who has always been doing, like when I look back and I look at my family dynamic, my mother is a very independent woman. My mother raised four kids on her own, single mother, and worked two jobs as long as I can remember. And with her, like I just remember like my mama will be at the house, and my mama would come in, from the grocery store. We knew she was going to the grocery store. We expected her to call the house to tell us she was outside. But my mama would pull up from the grocery store with 15 bags in her hand, walking through the door, upset because nobody knew she was pulling up. It's like, but mama, you never told nobody. You never told us that you was pulling. You never told us that you was pulling up to help. We're here to help you. There's four of us. There's one of you. There's no reason for you to carry 15 bags. Let us get them. Let us divvy up these 15 bags amongst your four children. But you got to tell us. You got to tell us that you need help. And my mom never did that. And I looked at that like, but mama, and when I was younger, I kind of was like, mama, you know what mama gonna do? She gonna pull up. She gonna take all the bags out the car. She gonna carry them all in the house. Like, you know what mama gonna do? She's not gonna tell us she need help. And what's crazy is everything that not everything, but like a lot of things we see our parents do, we end up becoming that. A lot of things that we say, I'm gonna say me. I'm not going to tell you how your life went. I don't know. I'm gonna tell you from my experience. A lot of things that I seen growing up, I told myself I was not going to do, and I ended up doing just that. Hyper independence. I seen it growing up, and I looked at my mom, and I still think she's a very strong woman. I still think that she carries her burdens well enough to her understanding. But I think as you grow and you know better and you do better, that you have to recognize the areas that are causing you to have a wrath in your relationship with God and even with other people. And like I see, people around me who are like, Jazz, I got you. Like, if you ever need anybody to watch the girls, I got you. And I'm always like, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, but I got it. Jazz, if you ever need help in building something, I got you. Oh, yeah, thank you so much, but I got it. And the whole time I'm building everything wrong. Let me just stop for a second and tell you, when it comes to building stuff, I love the women who can build stuff without looking at instructions, or even the ones who can build stuff while looking at instructions and y'all not mess up, because I mess up 1,001 times when I'm building something. I literally just built a desk for my podcast area. I got it from Amazon for like, I want to say $50, $60. 50 or $60. And I needed a small little L-shaped desk for my podcast area so I could fit my computer and my cameras and all the good stuff. And unfortunately, when I built it, I built a couple pieces wrong. And so for that reason, I couldn't attach this one piece that it's like I'm going to try to describe it. When you have like those cheaper desks, you know how they have like that little L in or the X in the back of it to kind of help with the stability of the desk. I put the pegs on wrong, and therefore I couldn't use the X to make my desk stable. I'm not going to go back and redo this. This is going to be the desk I'm going to ride with. But when I was asked if I needed help building something, I said no. Knowing good and well, every time I build something, I build it wrong. I'm right now looking at some shelves I put together in my office, and I hate building drawers. If you've ever built a drawer, like you literally have to build this little box. That part's easy. The hard part is those rails that you put on the side of the box so they can go in the little rack and slide in and out. I'm looking at a 6-drawer dresser that I built on my own that is crooked right now because I didn't ask for help. I'm telling y'all all my secrets, and I shouldn't tell you everything. Goodness. Okay, so now y'all know I build things, but I don't build them the best. Okay? So anywho, I say all that to say, like, hyper independence is me not accepting the fact that I don't have to do it all alone. Hyper independence for me is me trying to handle it all so that I don't be a burden. And just even saying that word burden just almost like tears at my soul, because I know that's where mine comes from. I know that's where mine comes from as a as the youngest child of four, and you're watching your mother and work two jobs, raise three other children, including yourself, or excluding yourself, so four kids. The last thing that I wanted to do as the youngest was be a burden. And watching her handle it, juggle it all, even though it was heavy, as an adult, um, I've internalized that into a level of hyper independence because I don't want to be a burden to anyone else. And I used to tell myself all the time, like, well, Jazz, just do what you can. And if you really need someone's help, then ask them for help, because you don't want to keep asking people for help because, what if you really need them? What if you really need somebody to help you? Then because you ask them for help every other time, you're not going to have nobody to help you. This is how I rationalized it. This is how I rationalized not asking for help. And I'm sitting here tearing up. Girl, get it together. This is how I rationalized not asking for help, was saying, you can handle it all. You can do this. Save that resource for when you actually cannot do it. Whole time I needed it. Hyper independence, baby. So that's what hyper independence looks like to me. But how can hyper independence impact your faith walk, your journey, your walk with God? And we're going to look at Proverbs 28:26 in the NIV version, which says, those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom will be kept safe. Those who trust themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom will be kept safe. And I really need to harness this verse right here for myself, because like I said, I'm no example of someone who's mastered hyper independence, but I am someone who is actively trying to be vulnerable with myself and with other people in stating blatantly, I need help, I can't do it all, and being okay with that feeling of losing almost pride. I don't know if it's pride or not, but almost losing pride, and understanding that I don't have to just trust in myself, that God is around me. He's there for me. And God has placed people in my life who are also there for me, who are a safe space, not only for me, but also for my daughters. When I was younger, my mom had four kids, right? She had two boys that were the oldest, and then two girls, which were the youngest, her youngest two children. And my mom never let us go to people's house. She's always protected us, me and my sister, because she didn't want anything to happen to us. She didn't want us touched. She didn't want us to be a part of that, the Me Too. She didn't want any of that. And I realized with my daughters, I'm the exact same way. Like, I'd spend the night over people's houses, baby, I ain't got it in me, sweetie. I ain't got it in me. I mean, they may stay over like their cousin's house. There's a neighbor down the street that we've come really close to, that they'll stay over, but that's only been like two times. And of course, like their grandparents and their godmom. But other than that, that circle's real small. I'm not the mom who just lets them spend the night over nobody's house. I ain't that one. I ain't that mama. She can come to your party. I'ma come get her. Oh, it's a sleepover. Oh, well, thank you. I'ma come get her. I'ma come get her. I'll see you a little bit. And like that right there, using discernment. But hey, God he's not done with me. He ain't done with me. I'm working on it, okay? But this verse right here, I think, is important for me, that I don't have to just trust that I am my only safe space. I do not have to trust that I am my only safe space. God is my safe space. God is my protector. God has put people in my life who are lovers of him and love me too. And, a lot of times that hyper independence can show a lack of dependence on God, a lack of dependence that he is your provider, because we know that God puts people in our lives who are there for us. Like, in a relationship aspect, in a friendship aspect. They're there. They're a partner. They're supposed to be there to support and lean on, and vice versa. And when we take over this level of hyper independence, I can do it all, I'm gonna handle it all, I'm gonna take care of it all. We're not relying on the resources that God gave us. And we're putting limitations, not only God, but on people that He has around us. And I caught myself doing that today. And thank God for my best friend, because she was like, my boyfriend was like, I can help you put together that desk. And I'm like, okay, but I got it. You already know how I am. I already told you how I am. I was like, okay, but I got it. And she was like, Jazz, if you do not let that man help you, let him be a man. He said he got it. Let him help you. I'm telling you, I'm learning. This was literally today. I'm trying, bro. Like, it's hard. It's hard. But in my mind, I was like, I got it, because I know you got to do this, and I know you got to go do that. And I don't want you staying up too late, and I want you to make sure that you make it to work. And I know that you have to do all these things. I can take care of this. But in reality, this is what partnership is about. I can help you. I can help you. Let me before I like keep going, but does anyone ever feel like the words I can help you, either A, when it comes from someone else, it sounds foreign, or B, you almost don't trust it? Not that you don't trust the person and that they're capable, but you've been let down so many times that you're almost like, I got it. Don't even worry about it. I got it. And being let down so many times in life is hard to accept. And I will help you. I got you. Because being let down also leads to hyper independence. It's just so much. It's just so many parts of this. Like, so many parts. Man, hyper independence for me is such a big topic because it opens up so many childhood wounds for myself. And as I'm learning myself and I'm going through therapy and I'm reading the Bible and I'm talking to God and I'm trying to be consistent with all these things and trying to be focused on all these things, I am just unpacking these pieces of my childhood that are hard for me to even fathom, to see, to process. But luckily, we have biblical figures that struggle with independence, and they can be guides for us, and they can be reminders for us. And, there was Abraham's doubt in Genesis 16, verses 1 through 6, when he doubted that God was going to bless him with a lineage. He doubted that God was going to give him what he desired. Moses' frustration in Numbers chapter 11, verse 10 through 15, and Peter's level of pride in Matthew 26, 33 through 35. These are spiritual, biblical figures that struggle with independence. So we know that struggling with independence is not nothing new. It's not foreign to the kingdom of God. People go through it. People experience it. It is a human weakness. It's a human weakness. But our God is so sovereign. And in seeking our sovereign God in our human weakness, I talk a lot about humbling yourself in front of your Father, humbling yourself in front of God. And this, I need to do this more, is lay this struggle right here, this hyper independent struggle, because I've used it as a shield for so long. I've used it as a level of protection for so long that I need to lay down that to God. I need to lay it down. God, take it from me. God, remove it from me. Because I don't want to have such a level of independence that I push away people that you've called to be in my life. I don't want to have such a level of independence that I forget who really made a way. I don't want to have such a level of independence that my daughters that are watching me grow into a woman, grow into a Proverbs 31 woman, think that this is the way to operate. I see my mama that she was strong. I need to be strong. No, baby, you don't. No, baby, you don't have to be strong all the time. It is okay to need help. It is okay to need me. It is okay to need your family. It is okay to need your significant other. It is okay to need your friends. It is okay to need people in your life that God placed there strategically for you. It is okay. You do not have to do it all by yourself. You were never called to. And we understand, like, I can name a few consequences of hyper independence, of being a very hyper independent woman. I can tell you some situations, a lot of situations about the consequences of me personally being hyper independent. I have had people who are like, you don't even need me, Jazz. They felt not needed because I always handle stuff on my own. And even down to, holidays are coming up, gift giving, even down to that. Like, I don't even know what to get you because you always do it on your own. You always get it. I have one conversation with you about what you want, and then the very next minute, you got it in your hand. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to get out of it. But there's so many consequences to it because people in your life, they want to feel needed. They want to feel, they want to feel like they're helping you. You're always helping them. They want to feel like they're helping you too. So, what are some consequences of relying solely on ourselves from a biblical perspective? We'll look at Psalm 118, verses 8 through 9 in NIV. It says, "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than trust in humans. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than trust in princesses." Relying solely on you ain't gonna get you nowhere. Relying on your Father, that's where the beauty comes in. That's where the beautifulness comes in. Is relying on him because you take the weight and the burden off of your shoulders. And again, the call is coming from inside the house. It's coming from inside the house. Relying on my Father. And gosh, if we just think about like day-to-day struggles with being hyper independent, I just naming a few: burnout, isolation, missed opportunities. Let's go one by one because I can give you story after story after story. Burnout. I have the worst problem with this. I told you about last week. I told you about this past week. Like, literally, my body made me sit down. Like, I had no choice. I had no choice. I wanted to do it all. I want to be the one who gets up at the gym, goes to the gym at 5 a.m., works out for 2 hours, come home, make breakfast for the kids, get them off to school, wash, shower, get dressed, do my content that's required of me for my job, go from that, do some more content, post more videos, be more engaged, make sure that I'm engaging with my friends and checking in with them, seeing how they're doing. When the kids get home from school, being that person who has dinner ready, lunch ready, all these things. I wanted to do it all. And there's a time when your body says you can't do any of that. Burnout. You're doing too much. Girl, sit down. Sit down. You are not Superwoman. And I'm really navigating this life closer to being 40 because I keep bringing it up, but when I was younger, I could do it all. When I was younger and in the world, right? I was out there, y'all. Like, I would literally, there was this club that we used to go to on Thursday nights. And I would go to that club. I would go to work 8 to 5, got off of work, take care of my kid. I had one child at the time. Take care of my kid, get her squared away, whatever, whatever. Drop her off, be at the club until 2, 3 in the morning, get back home get my baby, all this stuff, and then wake up and be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning to do it all over again on Friday. I was late to work every Friday. Every Friday I was late. But I could do it then. I could run in circles then. But as the closer I get to 40, that'd be what circles? Unless it requires I need a nap. Okay, bedtime is calling me by name. First, middle, and last. Bedtime is calling my name. Burnout, doing too much, or even isolating myself because, like I said, people, they want to be needed by you. Oh, well, Jazz, she don't ever need no help. She good. You know what I'm saying? Like, like isolating yourself unintentionally, pushing other people away unintentionally. There's been times I've done that. There's been times I've missed opportunities because of my hyper independence, opportunities for help, opportunities for personal growth, even career wise. There's been, times prior my previous job, I was a supervisor. There's been times where my hyper independence, thinking that I could handle it all on my own, I lost opportunities to learn delegation. I lost opportunities to learn how to multitask and how to allow my team to work for me and not feel like I have to do it all on my own. You know, there's been times I had to learn that. But all in all, these are just some ways that, this could show up in your life in a negative way. What it could look like is burnout. It could look like isolation. It could look like missed opportunities because of my hyper independence. But, the root of it all is so much to unpack, because I think a lot of our hyper independence comes from how we grew up in childhood and what that looks like. But as an adult, when you know better, you do better. What does it look like for you to turn that hyper independence into trust in God? Active steps. It is active. It's not something that's done easily. You got to take active steps. How can we learn to trust God? And if we look at Psalms chapter 37, verses 3-5, trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Surrendering to God, praying, being obedient to his word, surrendering to God. We know that when we call on him, he's there. When we need him, he is there. He's never let us down. He promised us that he would never leave us or forsake us. We know he's there. But actively talking to him, God, this is where I struggle. I struggle with being hyper independent. I struggle with that. I struggle with trying to handle it all when I know that your intention for me was never to do that. So God allowed me to be obedient to your word. Allow me to be obedient. Help me be obedient. Guide me to obedience. Put people in front of me, God, who are successful at being obedient, who are successful of delegating, who are successful of not being hyper independent, but being independent in a healthy way. Put people in front of me, God. Put people in front of me that practice dependence. Not the unhealthy level of dependence. Like, you don't want to go from one extreme to the next, but there is a level of dependence that's needed to satisfy relationships, even when we're talking about the one between you and God. And how can we cultivate dependence on God? If we look at Matthew chapter 11, verse 28-30, come to me, all that are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Me personally, this is what I'm working on, is depending on not only God, but the people that he has in my life to help me, and trusting God that he said he's never going to leave me. I shouldn't have to do this all on my own, because God told me to give him my worries, even down to building that desk. Even down to building the desk that I know if I do it on my own, the drawers are going to be crooked. I know this because they always are crooked when I do it on my own. Even down to that, how can I help myself with this? And that is giving it to God. God, I struggle with hyper independence. I see myself doing it today alone. God, take that from me. God, take it from me. Show me how to navigate that. God, guide me. I can talk to God in prayer. I can journal. I can meditate. But the main thing is God has a community of people around you that love you and care about you. And if you don't know who that community is, because some of us don't, and that's cool. If you don't know who your community is, talk to God about that. Seeking, online or in-person Bible studies. Going to church and really investing your time with people who also love God. Joining Facebook groups with women who also love God in your area or outside of your area, because things that we go through, there's plenty of people who's been through it before. And I think for me, like, I don't even know if it is a level of fear that is attached to my hyper independence, unless it's like fear of being let down. But how can we overcome the fear and trust God? If this is something that you deal with, if you deal with this because of fear, look at 1 John chapter 4, verse 18, where it says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Recognizing that in this moment, I'm hyper independent because I'm fearing something. What am I fearing? Am I fearing that they're going to tell me no? If I say I need help, am I fearing that I'm going to not look strong anymore? Am I fearing that they're going to let me down? Am I fearing that my pride is going to be impacted? Am I fearing that I'm going to lose control? Recognizing where that fear is coming from, but then recognizing God's love aside from that. Because God tells us in 1 John chapter 4, verse 18, there's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Trust your Father and step on faith with that. Listen, I am personally working on, and I'm sure a lot of us women, especially single mothers, we kind of navigate this world by handling everything because, who else is going to do it? If I don't do it, who else is going to do it? And that's the motto, but that ain't the truth. We're lying on God. Breaking free from hyper independence requires us to trust God moment by moment, action by action, step by step. Is it easy? No. No. Trusting God and thanking God through the process, talking to God and being honest with Him, just like I'm doing with God. Like I struggle with this, God, and I don't want to push away yet another person that you sent my way. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? If you're someone who's struggling with hyper independence, it's a day by day thing, and I honestly I wish that we all work on that, because you're not alone and you don't have to do it alone. You do not have to do it alone. You were never intended to. You guys, thank you so much for joining today's podcast. And just chatting it up with me. And I honestly just appreciate you guys, and I love you so much. And if you're someone like me who is struggling with hyper independence, with feeling like you need to do it alone, just know you don't have to. I'm working on it too, sis. I'm working on it too. We'll just keep giving it to God and keep navigating in opportunities that God shows us to lean on Him and lean on the people that He placed in our life. Let's be focused on making sure we use those resources when we need it. Okay? And even being honest with yourself and saying, I need it. I can't do this all. I need it. I need your help. I can't do it all. Okay? Before we leave, I'm going to pray us out, but I do want to tell you guys thank you so much for joining in today's podcast. I love you guys so much. And let's go ahead and hit that prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to anyone listening to this podcast who is focused on becoming a P31 or walking with you, God. God, we thank you so much. Thank you so much for inclining your ear to your people, for hearing us out, even in the small things and the big things that we're struggling with. God, for those who are struggling with hyper independence like myself, like whoever is listening to this podcast today, God, I just pray, God, that they continue to seek you, that I continue to seek you through this process. God, we want to trust you with all of our mind, body, and our spirit, because we know that there is no Father like you, because we know that you are a provider, God. We know that you take care of us, God, and that we don't have to worry about everything on our own or carry it on our own, because you've placed people in our lives, God, to help us carry these loads. And God, we thank you. And God, it's not us being ungrateful for the people that you placed in our lives. It's us feeling like we have to control it all and handle it all and walk with it all. But God, you told us that we don't have to. You told us to lay our burdens down to you, God, and we are thankful for our children that are watching us grow into women or men of you, God. We ask that they see us trying not to be hyper independent, us leaning on you, us desiring your help, us seeking you, God. Let our children see that, so that this is not their struggle when they get older, God. So that their struggle is something that is manageable, something that is helpful, something that they can improve on, God. Allow us to be examples of how to walk with you and for you, hand in hand. God, we thank you so much. We thank you so much for the journey. We thank you so much for people listening in, God. And we just say all these things in your name. Amen. All right, guys, I will talk to you on the next episode. And thank you so much for listening in. You guys have an amazing day. Bye.